My name is Charles Yearwood. I'm Senior Technical Officer with the Drainage Division, Ministry of Transport Works and Water Resources. When there's flooding, person says a lot of rain, there's a lot of water going, that's a perception. Scientifically, consultants over time, 1973, 1985, and 2018 study, recognize that we categorize in terms of major and minor or low flooding. Major flooding, you're talking about structural flooding. Structures, you're talking about structural or structures, whether it be a doghouse, a house, a hotel, anything that houses animals and humans, structural flooding. And so we want to ensure that where those particularly habitable structures, where people live, that we don't have water, if it falls, getting into the floor at the floor level. And that's structural flooding. And oftentimes we say if the water is higher than 450 millimeters or 18 inches high, then it could be considered, not only structural flooding may not affect the houses or the floor levels, but may also not allow short persons or children to wade through that water and become unsafe, particularly where the water is going fast. The lower level flooding is less than that, where the water is like a more nuisance flooding. It's on the road for a while, you can avoid it. If you walk through it, it's probably more ankle height, but it's a nuisance. And we know of the environmental issues associated with stormwater. Water, once it hits, rainwater that hits the earth, what is flowing is not what's coming from the sky, is what we put on the earth. The garbage, the waste, and then you have persons who have dangerous chemicals and they can dispose them, and that can affect people's skins and like. The number of areas that have had repetitive flood experiences. The way back, we can go to, let me allow my head go from north. We can think of Husbands, St. Lucie, Spikestown, Mullins, Whole Town, Fitz Village, come on down to Bridgetown, Murphy Pass to, you have London-Bourne Towers. You have a number of falls that go to the sea, and when you have a high sea surge, you have the sand pushed in, block the water from going to the sea, and then you have a lot of those properties, some nuisance, but along Hastings Road, you go to Watton, Leadville, Dover, a number of places that flood. But we have plans to mitigate a lot of this work, and some work has been implemented already.
Are you willing to respond to a call to help others following a disaster? Do you possess emergency skills that can be useful? Then the Department of Emergency Management needs you as it seeks to create a list of resource persons. Contact the DEM at 438-7575 Mondays to Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. if you're interested in being included in an emergency response following a disaster. Barbados needs you to be a part of the recovery effort.
Over time, we've had a number of interventions to reduce and almost prevent flooding today. So we've gone from constructing 3 or 4 detention ponds upstream of Highway 2A that would catch water that would otherwise flow to Spikestown. You've had work by the Japanese intervention in terms of early warning systems. We've had phase 1 and 2 of the channels between the Spikestown and the bypass road, and recently work in and around changing the culvert at the bypass road. So the water now, we have a larger channel and it goes further up into the rim that is wider and can take a lot of those flows for 120-year flow, 125-year flows. So we're saying that if the kind of rainfall that occurs a rare event, more rainfall that occurs every 25 years, it will just overtop the top of the drain. The other areas in which we also rely a lot on our wells program, where you have some nuisance flooding and some localized flooding. And we have continually, since 95, almost a purely 2 year contracts for cleaning of wells and maintenance of wells. And that is work on continually going. A lot more go in the non-rain season than the rain season. Because you imagine when the rain is falling on the rain season, you have saturated soils, you have water sometimes holding the wells for a long time. Oftentimes, you see a well and you see in your neighborhood, the area is dry, but when you open the well, water's in the well. We are challenged in Barbados with climate change. We are challenged with having, or we have a fortune of having water in the aquifer. The aquifer is under the lands, all the lands we see. And water authority pump water from those wells in those zone 1 areas for us to drink, to bathe, to wash cars, whatever. So we recognize with integrated flood management and integrated water resource management, the tradition of digging a well until you see water is a no-no, a big no-no. And what's the fallout? Some persons or some areas will experience some nuisance flooding because the wells will take the water off slower. And every time the water passes through the limestone, it's going to take some of that out and create fissures, and that's how we get a cave. So over centuries, that water that is going from the top of the land to the aquifer is going to take a shorter route. It's shorter time, same route, because the water is going to erode the limestone. And so we have to be careful and concerned.